Salut! Aujourd'hui, nous allons faire la leçon 2 du chapitre 3. Alors, s'il vous plaît, tournez à la page 114 du livre texte, 114. Just like with lesson 1, lesson 2 actually has 2 new grammar points to go over, yet I will actually be going over one of them. On this page, you actually will not need to know too much. You still have to go over it, but on l'adjectif qualificatif, the only thing you really need to know is how to form the feminine from the masculine and the masculine from the feminine. And it's pretty clear cut. There are no exceptions to the rule because these are the exceptions. So there are not really any exceptions to the exceptions. For example, how to say the first of the month. Okay, le premier. However, when it's feminine, you change the accent on the first E going down, and then you add an extra E to make it feminine. So go ahead and go over those rules and then do the activities on the lesson plan. But I would like to go over the next page, on page 116, the position of adjectives, la position des adjectifs. Okay, so for today's lesson, you already know by now that adjectives can go before or after the noun, what we call preceding or following, okay, the noun. So let's take an example. If you want to say a black cat, you have to put black after the noun. Un chat noir. Okay, it doesn't go before the noun. Okay, to say a cat, a cat that is black, you put noir after the noun. So for colors, you do put all of them after the noun. And then, if you want to say a pretty house, however, it actually precedes the noun. Une belle maison. Okay, belle because it's feminine, and then belle actually is an adjective that describes a noun's beauty. And so it actually falls under one of the exceptions. The exceptions falling under this list right here. So if you know the acronym BANGS, B-A-N-G-S in English, beauty, age, newness, goodness, and then size, so B-A-N-G-S, then you should know which adjectives actually precede the noun. So if there's an adjective that describes a noun's beauty, age, how new it is, how good it is, or how large or small, okay, or short something is, then it actually precedes the noun, just like belle, okay, belle maison. So far so good? Now let's think about it in English when adjectives actually can precede or follow the noun. Now since English is your native language, it might be hard to differentiate between the two examples right here. So for example, I like my black coffee versus I like my coffee black. What do you think the difference is between the two sentences? It's really hard to tell actually. Both visually include coffee that is black. However, you're implying that in the second sentence that you haven't had your coffee yet, and so you would prefer for it to be black. Versus the first sentence in general, you just like black coffee. Now, this sentence might actually help you out a bit in order to demonstrate how adjectives work in French as well. I paint the red house versus I paint the house red. What is the difference between these two sentences? It's actually much more clear than the first sentence with the black coffee. I paint the red house versus I paint the house red. So in the first sentence, the house is already red to begin with and you're painting it a different color. Unless if it's already red. Versus I paint the house red, which kind of implies that the house is not red to begin with and so you're painting it red. Now let's look at the list of adjectives in French that follow the same kind of rule. If you look on part D of the textbook, there's a list of adjectives that can precede and follow the noun, but they have two different interpretations, just like the red house example. I'm not going to read all of it since most of it is pretty clear. You just have to read the examples. But I'd like to point out a couple of ones that are kind of hard to differentiate. Okay, the fifth one down on the list is grand. Okay, the word for big or tall actually can follow the noun as well, but most of you already know that it usually precedes the noun to describe somebody who's tall. Okay, that would be un grand homme. But what does homme grand mean? Okay, the textbook actually says that un homme grand means a big, tall man. When you describe somebody who is tall, you still say un grand homme, so it's actually hard to differentiate. But the rule of thumb is you actually put un homme grand to describe somebody who is tall versus un grand homme to describe somebody who's just great in general. Okay, now they do get harder when you go down the list, so let's look at another example. La pauvre famille versus la famille pauvre. You guys know that pauvre means poor, but which one actually means penniless? The second one actually means penniless. La famille pauvre, pardon me. La pauvre famille versus la pauvre famille means unfortunate, meaning, something bad has happened to them and, oh, the poor family had this happen to them. They got into an accident or something. Okay, last but not least, the example that I want to point out. Ma propre chambre versus ma chambre propre. Which one means clean room? Right, the second one actually means clean. So when propre follows the noun, it means clean, whereas when it precedes the noun, it actually means my own. Okay, ma propre chambre, my own room. Okay, those are all the examples that I wanted to show you. Make sure you read the rest of them, though, because they will show up on the exam. And go ahead and do the activities as assigned in the lesson. Merci. Au revoir et bonne journée.